Thank you for joining me here this evening. The time is now 5 p.m. Central, 6 p.m. Eastern, and you have a live look at the beginning of a large-scale severe weather outbreak across portions of the upper western Midwest. A tornado watch has just been put in place for sections of far southwestern Iowa as well as southeastern portions of Nebraska, mentioning the threat for a couple of tornadoes, large to very large hail, and damaging wind gusts up to 70 miles an hour being a possibility over this region in the next few hours. We also have a severe thunderstorm watch that goes from sections of northwest Iowa all the way back into portions of west central Wisconsin. And in this area, we're also going to be watching out for large to very large hail, but also a damaging wind threat. Okay, we're going to be talking about a line of storms here, a big-time QLCS event that's currently developing across portions of southern Minnesota that will eventually likely extend back into sections of Iowa. And this line is going to have that potential to produce damaging winds of 60 to 70, maybe even all the way up to 80 miles an hour. So if you are out here in the upper western Midwest tonight, make sure that you do have multiple ways to receive alerts. Make sure that you do have a tornado action plan in place. Again, these are going to be elevated thunderstorms for the most part, so really the only area where we're going to be watching for a potential tornado threat is going to be the region with the absolute most primed environment, which is mainly going to be here across sections of east central Nebraska and maybe far southwestern and west central sections of Iowa. The Storm Prediction Center does have a 5% tornado risk in place there, that contour in the brown shaded region from sections of southwest Iowa near the Atlantic area back through to Columbus, Nebraska. Again, if I were drawing this map, I probably would not add that 5% risk just because we don't have enough evidence that we're going to end up seeing a large-scale tornado threat today, and these storms are going to be elevated. However, I will tell you the reason we have this enhanced risk of severe weather is entirely driven by hail. We're going to be talking about hailstones potentially up to softball size across portions of southern Iowa and eastern Nebraska throughout the evening time hours, and this is something that we've been talking about all the way since last week. So if you are in this area, make sure that you are bringing your cars indoors whenever you are under that severe thunderstorm warning, because pretty much every storm that develops out here in this region today is going to have the potential to produce some huge hail. So if you are in this area, make sure that you are prepared. So how's it going, everybody? Good to see y'all back here once again. The usual crowd. What's up, Gooseman, Random Texan Guy, Roy, Kate? How's it going? Again, we are watching the beginning of our active stretch of severe weather across the central and eastern United States, starting today with this enhanced risk, obviously, across portions of the Midwest. But as we go into tomorrow, we're also going to be looking out for a couple of tornadoes to be possible back into sections of the Central Plains and potentially all the way back up through the Midwest as well. I would not be shocked to end up seeing a very large 5% tornado risk added in that area somewhere. Right now, our risk is at a 5%. Actually, I guess, for sections of Oklahoma and Texas. But again, in my opinion, the greatest tornado threat comes with the areas that we're going to end up having that better storm mode, which would be up further to the north. So we'll see what happens, but it's very likely tomorrow that we're talking about a more impressive tornado threat than what we're seeing today and currently. What are we banning for? Oh, okay. Anyway, as we go into Friday here, into Saturday rather, we're still going to be dealing with that threat for a couple of tornadoes and more likely than not some big-time severe thunderstorms here across portions of the southern and central plains. I actually do think that there could be a bit of an elevated tornado threat back into Texas, and after that, we're not done, okay? Even going into Easter Sunday, as many of you know, we're going to be talking about a pretty decent chance of a couple of tornadoes, maybe even a brief strong tornado from sections of eastern Texas all the way back through southwestern Illinois. Day 4 slight risk of severe weather remains in place there for over 10 million people here. Again, I mean, this is a pretty big risk to have on the day 4 to 8 outlook, so we're definitely going to be looking out for that threat of a couple of tornadoes. Again, maybe a brief strong tornado or trough placement is very favorable right now for a active severe weather pattern, which is why we're seeing what we're seeing starting today. Again, I mean, we definitely can be talking about quite a widespread severe weather outbreak here if everything goes right for these thunderstorms across portions of the western Midwest. Again, these are going to be semi-discrete storms in a high lapse rate environment, which is likely going to have a huge hail threat if these storms do end up merging like we're expecting, and we're going to be watching for that because it's actually more of a likelihood than anything else that ends up happening, because again, these cells are not going to be fully discrete. As you can see, we've already got multiple thunderstorms developing over the same area here across eastern Nebraska, and if these cells merge, that could increase the hail threat with them significantly and very quickly as well. So definitely going to be looking out for some large hailstones here. Again, that's the main thing that we're going to be watching for today, but a couple of brief tornadoes can't be ruled out either. I think if we were to see a tornado threat, it would mainly come across our 5% risk area across portions of Iowa and Nebraska. Again, we could be talking about a couple of tornadoes maybe embedded in our line of storms back up through our QLCS event in Minnesota, according to the Storm Prediction Center. I personally don't see that. What's up, Mr. Storm? How's it going? Storm Chaser 575, what's good? We do have a flood watch in place now for sections of the Central Plains as well as western portions of the Midwest and the Ohio Valley even, as we are expecting several days of accumulating rainfall across these areas that have already seen so much rainfall in the past few weeks. Okay, obviously tomorrow we're going to be dealing with severe thunderstorms, mainly in a line formation, so they're going to be pretty quick moving here through sections of the Central Plains, but we're also going to be dealing with some thunderstorms in this area on Saturday and Sunday, and with all those days together, that could bring a pretty significant flooding threat here across these areas that have already seen some of them, over a foot of rain in recent weeks. So definitely going to be making sure that you're on the lookout here, make sure that you are staying prepared in these flood-prone areas, especially because, again, we have seen some devastating photos and videos coming out of the Central Plains. Again, this was a historic flooding event that we've been experiencing here across portions of Missouri and Arkansas, especially over the past few weeks, as well as parts of western Kentucky and western Tennessee. Again, I mean, it has just been nonstop devastation here across the mid-Mississippi Valley. I mean, it's been crazy. Yeah, so I can't bring up the photo for the tornado. I guess I could bring up the photo for the tornado watch if we go ahead and bring it up on mobile here and then screencast it over to you guys. But the tornado watch again mentions the threat for a couple of tornadoes being possible, damaging winds up to 70 miles an hour being a likelihood, and we're also going to be talking about huge hail. Again, as we said here earlier, there is going to be one of the most elevated hail threats that we've seen so far this year in play today for sections of the Central Plains. Again, scattered hail up to apple size likely. This tornado watch remains in effect until midnight. Again, we're going to be dealing with these storms all night long here, and after midnight, they're going to be moving through portions of central Iowa with a big-time damaging wind threat. So again, definitely going to be having a long night of severe weather here. Now, today's going to be an interesting day of coverage because I'm a little bit somewhat busy. We're going to have kind of a shorter stream here right now, probably 30-45 minutes, where we're covering the brief severe weather that we have ongoing and then also forecasting for the severe thunderstorms as we go later into the nighttime hours that we're expecting. But later tonight, we are going to have coverage out for those severe thunderstorms, specifically across portions of Iowa, most likely with some damaging wind gusts of 80 miles an hour being a possibility. But again, this stream here is going to be quite a bit shorter than most of ours because, one, we don't really have a whole lot going on, and two, again, I've got a couple more things that I need to do tonight before we can fully get locked in on severe weather coverage. But I figured I'd go ahead and go live here to mention we already do have supercells developing across portions of eastern Nebraska as we speak. See a Storm Chaser 575. We have ourselves supercells that are already developing in between Grand Island as well as Omaha, Nebraska. Again, we can see this furthest southern one actually was originally given a severe thunderstorm warning for a hail threat, but since then the hail presentation in the hail core on reflectivity has become much less impressive, but we are seeing this cell potentially develop some sort of rear flank downdraft as well as a pretty clear development of a hook echo there on the radar, so this could be a sign of intensifying rotation with this storm. So as it moves towards areas like Osceola and York in Nebraska, we are actually going to have to watch this pretty closely. Yeah, we are at 4,000 subscribers. It's pretty crazy. But yeah, I was not personally expecting this to be a tornado watch. I thought almost certainly this would be a severe thunderstorm watch because even in their mesoscale discussion for it, they mentioned that if we were to see a tornado, it would be a very weak and a very brief one, right? So very surprising that we ended up seeing that tornado watch get issued instead of a severe thunderstorm watch. Again, our watch for the northern extent of this event is a severe thunderstorm watch, as in this area, we're mainly going to be watching out for damaging winds, but again, a brief tornado or two couldn't be ruled out entirely in this area. It's just a very, very low probability. See it, Roman. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be very, very interesting as we go into the nighttime hours because there's a lot of different ways that this could play out. We got to be talking about, huge hailstones of record size for this year so far, or we could be seeing a whole lot of nothing if these storms fail to convect in the proper areas because, again, it's all about where these storms initiate and not necessarily, going to happen where they can develop anywhere and become intense. It really is a very localized corridor tonight where we're going to be watching for a very intense, severe weather threat. So definitely quite an interesting event here, especially for mid-April. Usually we're talking about something a bit different than a huge hail risk, but that's where we are for tonight. So again, I hope you all are having a lovely day. Let me know where you guys are tuning in from so that we know what areas to cover. Again, we're mainly going to be focusing on the Central Plains and the western portions of the Midwest tonight. But if necessary, obviously, we could be looking out for a couple other areas. We actually have some winter storm warnings in place there for sections of the Rocky Mountains. We're going to be watching for some heavy snowfall over the next couple of days in these areas. We have actually had a couple of special weather statements out here in portions of Utah as we've had some thunder showers convecting, capable of producing damaging wind gusts of 40 miles an hour or greater. So if you are in this area, make sure that you are staying safe. But again, we're hardly expecting anything too intense to happen out here this far west, obviously. Again, as we go into monsoon season, maybe that'll change, but we are obviously not there quite yet. So a new severe thunderstorm warning has been issued for our supercell that we've been watching near Aurora. If you're in this area, make sure that you are moving indoors immediately. Again, this mentions the threat for hail up to quarter size. Again, we've got ourselves a pretty intense area of circulation likely starting to develop there northwest of Aurora, just based off of the area of inflow that's pretty clear there on the reflectivity, as well as a significant presentation there of what could be a rear flank downdraft developing. This is a pretty classic supercell shape that we see here. Again, not super likely that this is going to be able to produce a tornado very easily, but the fact that it's already developing some rotation is pretty interesting. So we're going to watch this as it rides Highway 34 over towards York and Stromsburg. Yes, we do have an extremely critical risk for wildfires out there across portions of the Four Corner states today, mainly across sections of New Mexico there. Again, this is the highest level of fire weather outlook that can be issued. So if you are in this area, you need to make sure that you're staying hyper weather aware, avoid burning at all costs, because we have seen far too many major wildfire incidents already this year. And again, this is going to be a pretty significant threat because obviously things are very dry. So even the slightest elevation in wind gusts, which we definitely have out here, is going to lead to a huge explosive wildfire threat. And that doesn't just go for New Mexico. That goes for all of the central and southern plains. You got to be careful out there today. And even back further east, in sections of Dixie Alley, it's quite dry out there today. And we've also got some elevated wind gusts across portions of these areas, so even though it's not nearly as of an intense wildfire threat as we've got out here further to the west, it's still somewhat noteworthy. And again, you want to make sure that you're avoiding burning, or if you're doing it, at least make sure that you're doing it in a hyper-controlled location and environment. You want to avoid doing it, just out in the middle of a forest, obviously. That would not be well, but you don't have a whole lot of those out there in New Mexico anyways. But anyway, in all seriousness, going back over here to our supercell in Nebraska, again, I think it's fair to call this a supercell at this point. I mean, this is a pretty nasty-looking hook echo on this thing near Aurora. So again, we're going to continue to see this likely intensify here, as this is a pretty favorable environment for something like that to happen. Again, I think it's going to have a hard time planting a tornado down just because this is an elevated thunderstorm, but it's not entirely impossible. A common misconception is that whenever you got those elevated storms, you can't see them produce tornadoes. That's not true. It still happens from time to time. So again, back up here through Minnesota, right now south of the Twin Cities region, we're watching for a threat of damaging winds as this pushes eastward towards Rochester and Mason City. Again, a large QLCS event here getting going across southeastern portions of Minnesota as well as north central Iowa, likely going to promote a significant damaging wind threat, and also maybe some large hailstones as well. It's also worth noting that we do have a little supercell trying to develop there back behind our line, which is pretty interesting. Again, if it manages to stay discreet, we're likely going to continue to see that intensify and produce some hail and wind as it approaches the St. Peter region. So we'll see what happens with that. But again, not a super favorable storm mode or anything like that for tornadic development out here in Minnesota or Iowa today. And the areas that we do have a pretty favorable storm mode, these are elevated supercells. What's the reason for that tiny marginal risk down in Missouri today? Those were just the leftovers from last night's thunderstorms across portions of Kansas, so a marginal risk was issued for some wind. Again, we ended our live stream, obviously, because the threat was going to be, 3, 4 a.m., and we're not staying up for that, but we did mention that some downburst winds were going to be possible, especially south of the Kansas City metro, and that's exactly what happened. We have lots of reports of not only, like down trees and power lines and stuff like that, but also just some wind gust recordings in general that were pretty impressive. We had a 64-mile-an-hour wind gusts recorded out of Lynn County. We also had ourselves hailstones widespread of quarter size or larger reported from Ottawa back down towards areas northwest of Nevada, Missouri, as well as some ping pong ball size hail reports there as well. So a pretty big day for the South Kansas City metro region earlier this morning and late last night. Again, it was quite late at night, but I'm sure a few people got woken up by that down there. So again, we're going to continue to watch this supercell develop near Aurora. Again, this is not going to be a super long live stream because I do have a couple of things to do before we have to lock in here on severe weather coverage this evening. But we are going to try to do our best here to cover the storms that we have already going. Again, I'm watching this supercell near Columbus to do something similar. Again, I think that this is honestly probably a better environment than our storm further down to the south for something like that to happen. We've got a little bit more of an advantage here. We're quite a bit further out ahead of that boundary that you can see there on the radar actually quite clearly. Again, this is your boundary that these storms are going to be interacting with, and if any of them develop behind it, they're going to not be able to survive. But yeah. Yeah, it is wild out there. I posted it on Twitter, Arcs. It is a pretty crazy-looking thing on the satellite imagery. Bro, I accidentally deleted my radar scene on OBS. I don't know how to get it back. Just add, like, a screen capture, if that's what you're talking about. But yeah, I don't know what it would be outside of that. I'm sorry, I guess I just don't understand the question. So again, if any of these cells out here merge, that's going to significantly promote a much greater hail threat than what we're dealing with these currently. Again, we are watching for some quarter-sized hail with this southern storm. We have had a report of quarter-sized hail whenever this was south of Grand Island, but we're going to continue to watch for this to develop further as we're going to see these cells likely merge, because again, this is not a fully discrete environment, but it is semi-discrete again. I mean, this is like one of the more favorable hail setups that you can have out here for this time of year. So we'll watch and see what happens. Yeah, I don't want to talk about that right now, Arcs. I'd like to try to avoid topics like that, obviously, because we try to keep things lighthearted here and on topic, but it's quite sad what we saw out there earlier today. So again, Storm Intermedia is actually going to be intercepting this Columbus storm here very shortly. Again, you can see them just above my head there. They're going to be on this, what will soon likely be a severe thunderstorm here as it approaches Maple Creek and other portions of, what county would this be? Don't know, but as this continues to push northeastward, is the general story there. As it pushes along Highway 30, we're likely going to see this continue developing. Again, Storm Intermedia has given us permission to use their feed for today, as well as Freddie McKinney. We did just see a special weather statement get issued for our middle supercell here that we have trying to develop in between our Columbus and our Grand Island storms. This one is likely going to have the least potential to do anything impressive in terms of a hail threat, but it is currently warned for nickel-sized hail. Again, the reason I say that is because it is smushed in between these two cells, so it's very likely that it's going to merge at some point in time. Surprised by the southern port being a tornado watch or not really? I am quite surprised by it personally because, again, I personally don't think that we have too significant of a tornado threat out here today due to these severe thunderstorms being elevated, but obviously the Storm Prediction Center knows best. But I'm glad to see you back in here again, Drew. I know it's been a while, at least since I've seen you down there in the chat, so thank you for tuning in. Again, we're watching for severe weather across your neck of the woods today, across eastern Nebraska here, so we'll keep an eye out for you. What's up, Josh? But yeah. No, you're good. But anyway, again, not going to be a super long stream here. I'm doing alright, Josh. How are you doing? First day of spring break, so that's pretty good. But we're not going to be live here for very long because we've got a while until storms really convect to their fullest potential. But we certainly could see something here pretty soon with some of these supercells in terms of a hail threat. But again, I've got a couple more things to do before we can lock in on our main stream tonight. See you, Storm Chaser 575. What's up, severe weather? Yeah, I'm glad I could help. Again, streaming softwares, especially OBS, Very, very annoying sometimes. Recently, I've had issues where I'll go live and it just immediately crashes over and over again. Like, sometimes it'll take me, like 5 attempts to start a stream, and that's why sometimes it'll say, like, a stream is scheduled for, like, 15 different, actual live streams. It depends on what you mean by major. Easter Sunday looks like we're going to have a pretty potent wind threat, but definitely can't rule out some tornadoes, maybe even a brief strong tornado or two. But I do think that this event is being somewhat overhyped, as per usual, by many on X as well as other social media platforms. There are just so many uncertainties right now in the environment out here. Our instability values, we haven't even confirmed if they're really going to be in play too well for this event again. It's looking like we're going to be dealing with a very minimal amount of CAPE here. Of course, this is the GFS, so you're going to see it increase whenever we get to see those more short-range models. But in the main area where we're expecting there to be a good threat for severe weather based on our trough placement, we're really only dealing with about 1,000 joules per kilogram of CAPE at the surface level. And again, there's still some huge uncertainties about this event. Otherwise, our dew points there, they are actually going to be pretty potent. They're going to be reaching the 70s into portions of Arkansas, but there's just too many question marks, in my opinion, to call this, a major event quite yet. But it certainly could shape up to be one with a couple more model uptrends. So, wouldn't totally rule that out quite yet. Central PA is not going to be dealing with any storms anytime soon now. That's for sure. But usually you end up seeing your severe weather season in the late summer as well as early fall anyways in Pennsylvania. So our severe thunderstorm warning has been dropped for our QLCS in Minnesota. Crazy cell near Central City. That's what we're watching right now. Again, it's likely going to have a very, very low tornado threat associated with it, as it is an elevated severe thunderstorm. But large hail definitely starting to become prominent there. Again, would not be shocked to see them upgrade this severe thunderstorm warning to like ping pong ball sized hail or something like that shortly. No tornado. So again, Storm Under Media on our storm just near Columbus right now. They are going to be intercepting this shortly here. Again, we have gotten their permission to use their live feed for this stream. They are just above my head. The ARRR is hilarious. Let's check it out. Let's see this. Holy cow. Look at that giant supercell that it has developing on the north side of Omaha. Look at that. And look at how... Oh my goodness. I don't know why I think that's so funny, but these are huge. Look at this. This is 9 p.m. Am I the only one that thinks that that's insane? That is hilarious. Oh my goodness. Again, obviously what's happening here is, as for anybody wondering, it's clustering supercells and combining them into one, but it just creates like this giant supercell here. This is legitimately a 50-mile wide supercell. That is hilarious. But yeah, I can tell you right now that that is not going to happen. You're not going to see a 50-mile wide supercell tonight. Elkhorn 2.0. But yeah. Seth is a bot? I don't think he's a bot. You know what? He might be a bot. Looking at his previous messages, they're all either laughing emojis or buys. That's the only thing ever. But if you're not a bot, Seth, let us know. Again, I'm sorry to accuse you, but it's just... usually... He's not a bot. Okay, he's not a bot. Sorry about that. As we stated, our severe thunderstorm warning has now been upgraded at half-dollar sized hail. So if you're in this area, make sure you are moving indoors and away from windows immediately. Likely for this to get a couple more upgrades here soon. That's what a bot would say. But, again, probably not going to be live here for too much longer before we get our mainstream started up later tonight. Again, just kind of going over the forecast for today, as well as covering some of these localized severe thunderstorms that we currently have. I'm sorry for accusing you, Seth. I just... it's just something that, I don't know why, it just looked like bot text. But yeah. It's not a bot. He's not a bot. He's a real person. Why do I always stream so late? What do you mean late? Like late in general or late to the event? Congrats on 4K. Thank you, dude. Again, we hit it a few streams ago, and then we went under, and now we went up again. Well, we're not going to go live at 4 p.m. every day because there's not always something happening at 4 p.m., you know? Again, our main threat for tonight is going to be 7-8. There's nothing we can do about that. So, anyway, again, we just, we go with the events. So again, Storm Media about to intercept this supercell here that's about to undergo a couple of mergers as well. So again, potentially a pretty potent hail threat here with this one about to develop. So we'll see what happens. And there we go. They just gave that a severe thunderstorm warning for portions of Cumming, Colfax, Platte, and Dodge counties in east central Nebraska. I mean, I guess it's pronounced Cuming, actually. This is for Schuler and Webster. If you're in this area, make sure that you're moving indoors. Again, this supercell is about to undergo a couple of cell mergers, so good chance that we see the hail threat with this intensify. It's really about to merge with a full another fully fledged supercell here, so we'll see something pretty interesting happening probably. You can already kind of see some sort of greenish colored tint developing there, maybe. Do we here in Northwest Illinois have a strong chance for hail? What's good, Alan? It's been a minute. Northwestern Illinois probably not going to be watching out for a significant hail threat, but I will say overnight a couple of supercells could potentially bring you some small hail and gusty winds. This is what the radar is going to be looking like at about 3 a.m. according to the HRRR model for the Davenport area. Again, mainly just going to be looking out for some scattered thunderstorms capable of producing gusts up to 50 miles an hour, maybe some small hail as well. The NAM model here has a pretty similar look for the Northwestern Illinois region, I believe. Let's check this out, though, just to confirm. Yeah, so again, mainly watching around 2, 3 a.m. for some thunder showers. It actually has another round coming through at about 4 or 5 a.m., which is pretty interesting. Again, not going to be a whole lot of instability out here in this region, so that's going to limit any sort of major severe weather threat, but how's it going, Alan? Anyways, again, watching to see these cells merge here along Highway 30 pretty shortly because there's a good chance that that increases the hail threat with them. Again, right now, if we take a look at the vertically integrated liquid signatures, we can see that we've got a maxed out swath there north of Richland. That was a horrible circle. I hit my mouse on the desk. You can actually see the shape of the vertically integrated liquid signature taking a supercellular shape. That's pretty cool. Again, it's not a sign of anything, it's just coincidental, but Jesse, how's it going, dude? Hope you're doing well today. So our hail threat here continuing to become more impressive based off of every reflectivity scan as this storm approaches the north side of York. So again, if you're in this area, make sure you're getting indoors and away from windows. We're already starting to see a monster hail threat develop with this storm. So, what if I'm a bot? I am. Do you not know that? I was actually programmed by Elon Musk. So again, starting to see this develop a more intense hail core here, and it is now warned for golf ball-sized hail. So again, this is now a considerable severe thunderstorm warning for northwestern portions of York County. So if you're in this area, make sure that you're getting indoors and away from windows. Again, starting to see those DBZ values increase over 70, 73 even. So good chance that this is packing a punch here near the Bradshaw area. Again, eventually this is going to be going in between York and Stromsburg. So we'll see what happens again right along that boundary there. That you can see on the radar. Again, any cells that develop west of here are not going to be able to do anything. Wow, look at that. I mean, that is an incredible hail core. Again, this is a pretty nasty hail threat north of Highway 80. We already have 76, or I-80 rather. We already have 76 DBZs on this supercell. And again, we're really not that far from the radar. It's about 55 miles, but this is a huge hail core. Wow. So again, just north of Bradshaw is where we're seeing that. Right at the intersection of Road 18 and Road E. Again, I mean, this is likely promoting a huge hail threat right now. I would not be shocked to see this go destructive very soon. Our northern storm, by the way, is now warned for ping-pong ball-sized hail. As we said, the hail threat with this is going to increase very quickly as we see these cells merge. Again, storm intermediate, they're just north of Schuler on this thing. Look at that. So again, we'll continue to see this move east-northeast. Tim Marshall, he's back here once again. Yep. Oh gosh. Again, I mean, even Freddie McKinney has said this could be the storm. So, we'll see. Well, what's something that, what's something that like an AI can't do? What's a good test? I swear I'm not here for tomfoolery. What are you gonna do? Rate El Reno EF0? El Reno Piedmont, that is. We were in a pullout about that earlier. Which tornado was stronger, El Reno Piedmont or El Reno 2013? Quarter-sized hail now reported from Hampton, from fire department and rescue services, but again, that was with an area where we're not thinking the greatest hail threat is anywhere near at this point, so. High, that's too high. EFU. Low-end EFU, even though it's not a thing. Again, I mean, a huge... this is a massive hail core developing with this supercell already. And I say already because I believe it has more room to grow. They just issued a new severe thunderstorm warning there. I'm going to guess that that's probably baseball-sized hail. We'll see. But if so, that would make this a destructive severe thunderstorm warning now. Okay, we got to wait for it to reappear because it did the little disappearing trick and I didn't catch it in time. Unfortunately, I will have to end off the stream here very shortly. Oh, it's still one for golf ball size hill. Okay. So, north side of York, Benedict, Gresham, Thayer, and Waco. Make sure that you're moving indoors and away from windows immediately. Would not be surprised to see hail with this larger than golf ball size, and they're probably only keeping it golf ball size because we don't have any reports yet. But that's likely because this is a super rural area. But again, unfortunately, I do have to end off the stream early here, guys, but we are going to be going live again, obviously, later tonight, probably 7, 8, 9 p.m., whenever it starts to get quite active here across the Lincoln and Omaha metro region. So we'll see what happens, but I appreciate all you guys for tuning in. Again, sorry this was kind of a very short stream, but we will be back later tonight for more severe weather coverage. So have a great evening, y'all, and I will see you all in the next one.